The AI scanners have been wrong. They've just been flat out wrong. In fact, one customer even discovered that a minor scratch on the wheel was actually there in the scans beforehand. It even sends the before and after scans, and the before scan had the scratch in there, the after scan had the scratch in there, and then they sent them the bill for the scratch. So that's been part of the issue here, is that in a perfect world, maybe this system could work. Maybe. But clearly, it is either not being implemented correctly, or it is not working correctly, or maybe a combination of both.
From Olympic City and the home of Pikes Peak, this is the Automotive ADHD Show with Matt West.
And here we are, rocking it on the Automotive ADHD Show. Got a lot of stuff to get to today. It's going to be a packed show. It always is a packed show. I always run myself out of time to get to some of these things, but I do want to talk about a few things, and the first of which is AI rental car scanners. Yes, they are coming. They are here, and they're causing problems. Yes, so, and you may have heard some headlines recently about Hertz rental car using AI scanners. Well, there's more than that. In fact, most of them are doing it. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about the problems with AI rental car scanners and what you, as the person renting the car, can do about it. We're also going to talk about Tesla's diner. Yes, Tesla has opened up a diner. They serve food. They serve hot dogs and cheeseburgers. Is it overpriced? Is it worth it? We're going to get to all of that and more right here on the Automotive ADHD Show. And I think we'll talk a little bit about a piece of F1 heritage that you can own. It can be your coffee table and then some, provided you've got the money to make it work. So, of course, I'm your host, Matt West. You've tuned into the Correct Cars Show, and you can catch this show online. You can also catch it all across Southern Colorado on the radio. Several great radio stations to catch this on. And a little bit of a housekeeping note on that, by the way. If you tune into this on my flagship station, AM 1460, The Answer, on Saturday mornings, there is a little bit of a change that is going to come here in a couple of weeks, which is we are changing the time. At least the original airtime of the show is going to change on the flagship station, and that is going to go from where it is currently right now. And if you're catching it right now when this is originally airing, now granted, yes, maybe too much inside baseball. This show airs at other times after the original airing, but this is going to move to 2 o'clock as of August 9th. The program is going to be moving to 2 p.m. on Saturdays instead of 9 a.m. on Saturdays. Now, if you're listening to the show at literally any other time on any other station, nothing else will change for you. So anyway, just pointing that out there, little bit of a housekeeping note. I'll probably mention it a few more times because I don't want you to tune in on August 9th at 9 a.m. and be like, where's Matt? He's gone. They fired him. Finally, they got him. No. Well, hopefully not by then. But it'll just be at a new airtime. And that new airtime, I'll fill you in more on the details. I'll fill you in more. It's actually going to let us do some really cool stuff here coming up. Specifically, some events that are in the works that I want to be live at, and I wouldn't be live at my normal time. So anyway, that's all in the works. Really good stuff to just to keep you in the loop on. Now, I also want to talk a little bit about, before we discuss Hertz rental car, before we discuss the Tesla diner or the piece of F1 heritage that you could buy and own, project cars. I'm no stranger to project cars, not in the slightest. Though if you're tuning in on the video version of this show right now, you will see that's not the car that's usually in the garage. I think this is the first time I've talked about my 2024 VB Subaru WRX multiple times on the show. I've talked about how I hate the touchscreen, but also last week I talked about how surprised, I was about to say impressed, but impressed isn't the right word because I'm not impressed with all of it, but how surprised I am at how moddable these Subarus are. I know I'm not a Subaru guy by default. That's not my natural state to be a Subaru guy. So all the Subaru guys have known this for eons. And I made the point that it was very surprising to me that you can basically buy anything for that car that does anything from the manufacturer, from a variety of good aftermarket manufacturers to a large portion of maybe not so tasteful aftermarket things. There's a lot you can do with that car, but it has not been on video on the show before, which is crazy. I've had it for like 6 months, mostly because the S2000 for the majority of that time has not been running. So it's been stuck in that spot. And the A86, well, since I took the motor out of it, it was running when I took the motor out. It's not running now. That's also been stuck. But no, I do want to talk about the S2000 and project car expectations versus reality. Everyone thinks, especially, now granted, if you're seasoned to project cars, you're probably on the same page as me, but there's a lot of folks who maybe want to get into a project car. Do I want to buy this car and work on it? Maybe I got a nice, reliable daily, but I want something that I can be hands-on with, maybe learn a little bit more about wrenching on cars than just doing oil changes and your, own tire rotations and stuff. And a lot of people might actually consider, well, I'm not a big car guy, but I'd like to get something I can tinker on. And tinker on, well, there's a scale in which from minor tinkering to hacking stuff up, doing custom fab and engine swaps and all of that. There's a range here. And usually you start with one and you end up at the other point in one way or another. Or another thing that, I kind of forgot about with project car ownership. And this reminded me, I've been driving the S2000 this week. And in fact, I was just running some errands with it. And, and the car's been running good. We got the tune running great, thanks to Brian, OBD1 Kenobi, former official mechanic of the show. We got the tune running well. We've got, the car behaving correctly. It starts up nice. It idles nice. It drives nice. It's all really good until I was picking up lunch at the Chick-fil-A up here on North Academy. And I'm pulling out of the parking lot. And I'm like, yeah, I'm going to jump back on Academy. And I'm going to punch it real quick as I'm merging onto the road there. And as I'm shifting gears, I'm going to grab second. And whoop, the whole shifter comes up in my hand. And I was noticing the shifter was a little sloppy. I was noticing that. I was like, I don't know why the shifter's being sloppy, but I'm just going to ignore it until it fixes itself or something worse happens. Well, and something worse happened. And what's amusing about this is the shifter came up, and it's not just the shift knob, the whole stem of the shifter that goes down into the transmission, even the top part of the shifter assembly, which actually contains the ball and the socket that the shifter basically pivots on. All of that came up because the bolts had rattled themselves loose. And this reminded me that, yes, I have this car and I'm driving it on the street, but ever since taking it apart and doing a very not stock engine swap on the car, there's certain things you lose in a project car when you really commit to a project car. And in my case, the S2000 is more of a track-focused car with partial interior. Like, it has an interior on the front portion of the car, but none of the back, and it's got a roll cage back there now. Look, you lose some refinement. And by refinement, I mean knowing that I can grab second gear, merging out of the Chick-fil-A parking lot, and not pulling the shifter completely out of the transmission. Now, you might be saying, well, Matt, you obviously didn't tighten those bolts down when you put the shifter back in, when you put the whole drivetrain in. I did. And here's the thing. I did. And they rattled themselves loose. And I know that because, for one, it was fine for a while. For two, the last bolt was still in the upper portion of the shifter assembly. It was hanging in there. It wasn't threaded into anything when I pulled it out. And, why did this happen? I would like to think I torqued those to spec. I probably didn't torque them with a torque wrench. But one of the things, too, the car's got billet motor mounts now, and it's got a K24, and we're running that K24 at a little more RPM than stock. And you combine all of these factors, and what do you get? It rattles bolts loose. Oh, by the way, it rattled its TPS loose, throttle position sensor. It killed the intake air temp sensor. And this apparently, I thought I was crazy. I started asking around some of the other S2K guys. You ask around on the forums. I also know some guys locally who race K24 swapped S2000s competitively, like even more so than I do, and vibration is an issue. Knocking bolts loose, killing throttle position sensors, killing all... Yeah, it happens. So, what's the moral of the story here? Don't be an idiot and mod your car, or at least have some reasonable expectations. That, like, there's a point. Yes, you can believe in your head that, you know what, it's still a street car. I can still street it. Yeah, it's got a roll cage, it's got a fire extinguisher here, it's got harnesses, but I could street car it. No, there's things that happen once you have a project car. And I think I'm learning that. And maybe you should as well. We'll be right back.
This is Automotive ADHD with Matt West.
So I know that somebody is going to point this out to me after my monologue in the last segment about how modified cars sometimes suck to drive on the street. And sometimes when you think you have a streetable car, it reminds you that it's actually a modified car still. And someone's going to point this out. I'm holding it in my hand for the benefit of the radio listeners. I'm holding a red bottle of Loctite 243. I know that this product exists. I'm aware of what this product does, and in fact, how to use it, even. The problem is, I didn't use any of this when I put the car together. I didn't think I had to use any of this when I put the car together, because I figured torquing things to manufacturer torque specs would make sense, but it doesn't anymore. And honestly, I probably didn't torque those to... I don't recall getting out the torque wrench and torquing the top of the shifter bolts down. And in fact, I don't really know anyone who does that. I don't even really know any actual technicians who do that. Yeah, you're torquing like important things like a bearing caps in an engine. Yes, you're paying attention to that. And I think if anything, it's hobbyists, guys like me, who say, oh, you got to torque everything and it must be perfect because that's how the manufacturer intended it for it to be. Ask a legitimate technician who works every single day on cars and ask him if he's torquing down little things like shifter bolts. He's probably not. And if he is, he's probably spending too much time on stuff and isn't actually making any real money. Now, granted, maybe this is coming from, maybe I'm thinking more of like flat rate technicians versus hourly guys. I don't know. But the point is, no one's really doing that. Let's be honest. Let's be like frank. Let's be completely frank and honest. No one's doing that. But anyway, yes, I'm probably going to be buying more of this Loctite 243 here. And it's only blue Loctite. I'm not using red Loctite. I'm not going to do that on my shifter housing bolts. Because, now granted, they would never come out again. That is fair. But I might need to take it off again. And I don't feel like using a blowtorch to take off the shifter housing. And I might also melt the stuff that's in it. Plastic bushings in there. Probably wouldn't want to do that. So, anyway, by the way, you're listening to the Automotive ADHD show. I'm your host, Matt West. And I wanted to talk a little bit here, aside from project cars. It's always something silly and small, too. Yes, I've done dumb stuff. I, in fact, enjoy, in a way, sharing my experiences with you on the program. Because I won't always claim to know what I'm doing, but I will confidently charge into whatever I'm doing and do it to the best of my ability. Even if it's wrong, I will do my best to somehow make it work. So anyway, Tesla. Let's talk Tesla, okay? So Tesla has been in the news lately for a variety of reasons, a wide variety of reasons. The first of which is their little battle with Waymo. I don't know if you saw that a couple of weeks ago. The show was kind of taking a little bit of some time off, and I didn't cover it right when that came out. But Tesla is having a little bit of a battle with Waymo, who also does robo-taxis. And Tesla's Waymo battle was actually kind of amusing, and perhaps is not something... Well, it's something I think we would all do if we were in middle school. It's absolutely middle school humor. And what they did... So there's a map of Waymo showing their service area, right? Like, okay, hey, we mapped all of this out. We got self-driving taxis that are going to go in this area. And I'll actually pull up the map here while I'm while I'm talking here, because what Tesla did is very Tesla, I think. It is very much like them. If anything, Tesla is good at staying in the public eye, whether that's for the better or for the worse. They are good at doing that. And you know what they say? Any publicity is good publicity. So I'm sure that that's actually something legitimate marketing firms totally believe, right? Definitely. I'm sure. I'll pull it up here. Tesla Waymo map. I should have had this up before I did the show. But so what they've done is the map that Waymo was using, and this is in Austin, Texas, by the way. And Waymo showed their service area, where our robotaxis are, where they're designed to go, where they're mapped out, the routes they know. And Tesla says, well, let's make it bigger than Waymo's map. And they did that. They made it significantly larger than Waymo's map. If you're watching on video, you're going to see exactly what I'm talking about. This is a lot like a few weeks ago when I had Jim here in the studio, and we were looking at that Japanese magazine that showed a man with a steering wheel inside a CT scanner or whatever. Was it an MRI? I don't know. I'm not a doctor. But, and he was holding the steering wheel. The graphic depicted him holding the steering wheel in a somewhat unfortunate position. This is kind of like that. This is similar to that. And I think, you know what? Good on Tesla for doing it. It works for PR, right? People think, oh my gosh, Tesla's being cringy. This is stupid. Okay, people like me who have a middle school sense of humor are laughing at this, okay? And you got to realize that that's probably who they're targeting with it, right? Anyway, it's a, what's funny is I have a friend of mine, and he is doing some flight school. He's getting his pilot's license. And again, if you're, I really can't quite explain what this is on the radio for a variety of reasons. But again, our listeners on video, that makes sense. Our listeners on video can see it. But one of my buddies is going to flight school, and he's in the position now where he's trying to get hours. Okay, he's trying to get hours flying. He's doing different routes. He's, doing a lot of training behind the stick, as one could say, on an airplane. You'll see why that verbiage was relevant here in a second. Because what he decided to do over Broomfield, Colorado, he filed his flight plans and was flying out of one of the flight schools up there. And he shows me the ADS-B data. ADS-B data is like the transponder data. And you can go on a place like FlightAware, online and see all the airplanes in the air. You can see the routes they're doing. And most of the time it's tracking that ADS-B data. It's not like hard radar actually bouncing off of the airplane. It's a transponder that's pinging around and you can actually track it, right? Well, he showed me his ADS-B data. I'm going to have to ask him for the benefit of our video viewers to send this to me. I'll see if I can. I'll see if I can get it, because I should have asked him for it before this, but anyway. But he did his flight plan over Broomfield, Colorado, remarkably in a very similar shape, I should say, to this map that Tesla has drawn over Austin, Texas, that the Tesla robotaxis can drive in. Is very similar, in fact. Is artistically inspired, dare I say, by even this. Now, granted, I'm sure the flight school up in Broomfield, Colorado, or wherever, right? I'm sure they're used to this happening. In fact, they probably see this flight plan get filed on a daily basis by new students. I'm sure they do. But anyway, I think there's some artistic inspiration being drawn here. I think, great minds truly think alike. So anyway, now speaking of Tesla as well, let's talk about Tesla's diner, okay? Tesla's diner, no, is not shaped like that, but they do serve hot dogs, they do. And Tesla's diner opened up recently in Los Angeles. And this is one of those things that's not so much automotive related. I mean, yes, it's a car company with a diner. There's really not a lot that's automotive about cheeseburgers in this case. But it sort of looks like, I'll explain it, what it looks like. It's sort of, think of a 50s diner. Think of a Gunther Tootie's, like 50s style diner, like an overly aesthetically styled 50s diner, right? Not like an actual 50s diner. You get what I mean, Anyway, so think of that, picture that, except a futuristic version of that, a cyberpunk version of a 50s diner. It's got these LED lights going around it. It's got this kind of interesting white LED lighting underneath that. It's a weird looking place. Aesthetically, it's interesting. I'll say that. It matches their sort of vibe that they're going for with things like the Cybertruck. And this comes by way of the Los Angeles Times here. And the diner that Tesla is doing here it's a little strange still. It's a little strange. And it's a little weird to me that a car company that maybe saw a reduction in automotive sales recently, for a variety of reasons. But I think a company that has seen a reduction in automotive sales directly is now coming out and spending a ton of money on this diner. Now, sure, I'm certain this is a revenue generating idea, right? But I'm not certain this necessarily fills the revenue gap that they're now perhaps trying to overcome. And this opened, by the way, on July 21st, so it's been open for a few days. And people waited in line. I will say that people waited in line. And one automotive thing that's interesting is this diner. They serve smash-style cheeseburgers, think kind of like In-N-Out, right? They serve those, and they do have them in these cool little Cybertruck-themed boxes. So instead of, you're opening up your meal, and it's a Happy Meal, it's got a smiley face on it, it's McDonald's. No, it's a Cybertruck, and it looks like a dumpster when you open it up. Anyway, but the thing is, some of the prices on this, I'll go through a few of the menu items here, and they're a little overpriced, in my opinion, okay? Well, think what you will of Tesla. Think what you will. I think we're adults enough that we can actually separate political discussions from that of a automaker who is now selling cheeseburgers. I think we can do that. We shall attempt to do that, but they have the Tesla burger, creatively titled there, and it is known on the menu website as asset_ID_Lacy_juicy. So go up to the counter and order yes, I would like one asset_ID_Lacy_juicy, please. Make that a combo, actually. _asset combo. Tesla, this is uniquely Tesla. I'll give them that. It's almost like the name of one of Elon's children is similar to that, I think. They also have a hot dog. I don't see what the official menu name on this one is. Presumably asset_ID_overpriced_hot dog_. It's a $13 hot dog, but it does have pickled radish and onions on it. So you get a little bit for your $13. We're going to keep this conversation going right here after the break. You are listening to the Automotive ADHD Show. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
This is Automotive ADHD with Matt West.
I bet your Tesla doesn't make that sound, does it? Yeah, I know it doesn't. Hey, if you're just tuning into the Automotive ADHD Show, or if you're listening on a station that doesn't carry the entire program, which does happen in some cases, and that's totally okay. I'd rather you carry it, some of it, than none of it, right? But we were talking about in the last segment, Tesla's diner, okay? So Tesla has unveiled a diner establishment, a 50s themed, sort of 50s themed, but 50s cyberpunk retro future thing diner. And that's exactly what it is. And one of the things I forgot to mention during the break, we were just kind of poking fun at some of the names on the website of some of the menu items, but it has a movie theater. It has a drive-in movie theater in the diner. And I have to completely flip my position on this. I like that. I actually really like that. As a car guy, why would I want to go to a movie theater that's crammed, it's packed with other people, you're elbow to elbow, munching on popcorn with someone who's taking a phone call to the right of you. This other person's posting angrily to Twitter while you're trying to watch the movie. And then there's a screaming kid in front of you. Why would I want to do that when I could just go to the drive-in, sit in my own automobile, and watch the film? I think drive-ins are a beautiful invention. I think it's a crime that people don't like drive-ins. And I think it's great that Tesla has a drive-in movie theater in addition to their Tesla diner. I like that. I appreciate that. We need more of that. Now, granted, Tesla is also presumably self-aware, which is that if you're going to pull into the Tesla diner and charge your car, yes, by the way, pretty much everywhere you park is a Tesla charger. I don't know if they let you park there if you don't have a Tesla. I can't speak to that, but they are self-aware enough to know that it's going to take you a while to charge. So you might as well watch a movie while you're there, which, of course, instead, I'm in my gas car and I just filled up and it took me like 2 minutes. Maybe a little longer if I had to fumble around with the keypad for the credit card. Okay. So anyway, they're self-aware enough to understand that. But I also have to take a jab at Jalopnik. I got to do that because I was pulling this up in the break. A couple other articles relating to Tesla's diner. And there's an op-ed here from Jalopnik from Amber De Silva. And Amber De Silva at Jalopnik took a stab at this that I think is much too far. Now, it is no secret that if you peruse the automotive publications in the world, Jalopnik has decisively found itself on one very far end of the political spectrum. And they have now come after even bacon. Jalopnik, by the way, now granted, there's some great people who work at Jalopnik. There are some great people who have worked there as well. Jalopnik has a New York City office now, and I'm convinced that their current staff, they've had some staff changes over the years. They've been bought out. David Tracy formerly worked there, and I've met David Tracy before in the past, and he's a great dude. And there's a lot of these writers and these dudes and these people that have, that those in automotive media have really looked up to in many ways. And I'm not finding that anymore at Jalopnik. So yes, is this turning into a Jalopnik hit piece? Maybe. And only for one reason, which is that Amber in her op-ed took a stab at bacon. She took a stab at bacon of all things. Going through the menu at the Tesla diner, one of the menu items is a cup of what would be French fries, but instead of French fries, they're just bacon strips in the cup. And I think this is brilliant. And Amber reads here, quote, I'll read an excerpt from her op-ed on this. She says, quote, I know Elon is big on internet memes circa 2010, but these are things no one has cared about since 2010. They're not just no longer in vogue, they're actively cringe. It is, she says, she goes on to say, is the diner going to start serving balls too? Will there be a Think Geek pop-up on the roof? Bacon was big when Musk was 39 years old, but now at 54, it seems like he's trying to recapture that online splendor of his slightly younger middle age, a period where he wore his hair long and his leather coats longer, in an aesthetic that can only be called incel culture, end quote. She's coming after bacon. Excuse me, come on. No, I can't let this slide. I cannot let this slide one bit. Amber De Silva from Jalopnik coming after bacon. Sorry, I have to take a stab at this because these are things no one has cared about since 2010. Bacon has been around for hundreds and hundreds of years, if not longer, thousands of years. People suddenly didn't care about bacon after 2010? They're just no longer in vogue? How long has it been since you've had bacon? I'm just saying. I had bacon for breakfast this morning. No longer in vogue. Get out of here with that. Granted, with your New York City offices now and your bike to work culture at a car publication, it's no wonder that someone like this would come after the holiest of the holy meats, which is bacon. And there's never a point in time when bacon is not in vogue. Bacon is always in vogue. Bacon invented vogue. When you say vogue, no, you're actually talking about bacon. That is how this works. That is the way the universe was born. The Lord first created the universe, right? Then he created bacon. That's actually what happened that's perhaps the maybe not quite the official reading of that. I should probably clarify that's not the official reading of that. But my point is that at Jalopnik, formerly a car publication, we're talking about slamming on bacon. Why? Because it's Elon's bacon? No, not even because it's Elon's bacon. Just because bacon. Sorry, I had to address that. I had to address that. That is just that is a step too far, Jalopnik. That is clearly a step too far from your New York City office where you bike to work to write about cars. I'm sorry, but if you bike to work to write about cars, are you really a car publication anymore? I don't know. I do know. I know the answer, and you do as well. So anyway, a few other things I wanted to point out here while we're discussing Tesla's diner. That's the prices. I will admit, the prices here are a little bit rich. Just a smidge on that side. That wonderful, spectacular bacon that I was criticizing Amber at Jalopnik for is on the pricier side. It is $12 for 4 strips of bacon. Well worth it in my book. Also, we've got, what else do we have on the menu here? We've got French fries. French fries, those look good. They look like regular French fries. Hopefully they're better than In-N-Out French fries. I've found of all the franchises, I found In-N-Out in my book. I have a friend who works in In-N-Out, so that's why I'm taking a stab at him. And I found their French fries not to be the greatest of all of the French fries. McDonald's still wins the French fry wars in my book. Let's see. The Elon Diner also has breakfast tacos. Those actually look pretty darn good in those pictures there. Wagyu chili. Beef Wagyu chili. That's interesting. I can't say I've had beef Wagyu in chili before. Now, is it really real beef Wagyu? Probably not. I mean, yes, you can grow beef Wagyu in the United States, but anyway. So there's, and that hot dog, by the way, I mentioned, that's a $13 hot dog. Where are we at on the cheeseburger? Where's the price on it? $13.50 for the cheeseburger. However, Amber over at Jalopnik says, $13.50 for what is essentially an $8 burger from Shake Shack. When was the last time you got an $8 burger from Shake Shack? You're criticizing this and then comparing it to Shake Shack? Really? Because Shake Shack is known for its dollar menu, right? Anyway, hey, you're listening to the Burger Motive ADHD show, and coming up after the break, I promise we'll talk a little bit more cars, actually. We're going to talk about AI scanners at rental car places, and if I can squeeze it in, how you can have a piece of F1 history in your living room. How cool is that? That's all coming up right here on the Automotive ADHD show.
He's the nut behind the wheel and behind the mic. This is Automotive ADHD with Matt West.
1500 BC. I looked it up. 1500 BC is when people at least think that bacon was invented. Yes, if you're just tuning in, you're like, why is this guy in the car show talking about bacon? You missed my entire last segment is what you did. And you need to go back and listen on the podcast, wherever fine shows and mine are downloaded. We're on video as well, YouTube, Spotify, iTunes, iHeart, Facebook, all of those places. All of them. Think of a place. We're probably on there. So go catch the video version of the podcast, by the way. And if you do catch the video version of the podcast, or if you only listen on radio, go over to YouTube and subscribe on YouTube, by the way. Subscribe over there, even if you listen on the radio, because that is going to help out a ton. We are trying to break through the algorithm on YouTube, and we can only do that with your help. Also, I'm only just this far away from being fully monetized on YouTube. So it's definitely not the other motive at all, but you should go subscribe over there, specifically on YouTube, even if you catch this elsewhere. But 1500 BC. I was poking at Amber from Jalopnik and her attack, her unprovoked attack on the sacred meat that is bacon. And she said that it's no longer in vogue. And I'm sorry, Amber. I looked it up during the break, 1500 BC. It has been in vogue for a very long time. Also, the people who eat bacon, yes, bacon invented that, the notion of being in vogue, right? But vogue's not a very bacon-y word. It's not. So I suggest that anytime someone says something is in vogue, we actually replace it with bacon. Something is in bacon. Something can be very bacon. I'm going to turn it into an adjective that something is very bacon. So anyway, not robo-taxis. I was talking about robo-taxis earlier. Rental cars. That's what we're talking about. Rental cars. I've got a trip here coming up this week, actually. I'm going to be in D.C. for some work for my day job. That pesky day job, keeping me away from wrenching on cars. Come on. I mean, granted, something's got to pay for the cars too. But I'm going to be in D.C. and I'm going to be renting a car while I'm there. Mostly because I'm going to be transporting some fairly heavy broadcast equipment. I'm not just traveling there with like a laptop and maybe a cell phone. No, it's a little involved. It's involved what I'm doing there. And I've got some very heavy, big Pelican cases that need transporting, and I'm renting a car. And that got me thinking, because this is also coming up in the media right now, AI scanners for rental cars. AI scanners for rental cars. And these... Hertz made some headlines in the past couple months for rolling these out, and now some other rental car companies are doing it, including Sixt, S-I-X-T. Can they come up with easier names than that? Come on. Anyway, Sixt is also doing it now. They're touting their scanners. Meanwhile, some of the other rental car companies are actually touting that they're holding off on these AI scanners. Now, what the scanners are, okay, they're big drive-through scanners, okay? So it's this big mechanism that you drive through, and it's got various lights, it's got various cameras, it's going to take footage of the car at every angle, every location. It's even going to scan underneath the car, and when it does that, it's looking for damage on the car. And now it's going to feed that information back to its servers, where AI is going to sift through all that information and compare the before and afters and find damage. And I have a big problem with this, for one, which is that as it is right now, it is being used to needlessly nickel and dime people on nonsensical damage claims. You know, they've rolled out this technology, these AI rental car scanners, to, in theory, they advertise, providing a new level of transparency so that the customer knows exactly what's going on with the car. No, they've just, removed the need to have a guy with a clipboard walk around the car and compare notes from when it left to when it came back. And they said, we're going to remove the human error part of this. And somehow, by removing so-called human error, they've actually made it worse. They have made it worse. And I don't have time to go into every single story where someone has been, I'll say it, scammed by Hertz using their AI scanners. And this is happening to a number of customers, a number of people reporting this. It's making various news publications, but people are going in, having the car, renting the car, taking it back, having it scanned, and there is perhaps a tiny scratch on the wheel, not even a true curb rash. And the scanner says, aha, that's different from before. Boom, auto sends you a bill for $600 for a new wheel. Now, you could say, well, yes, but the scratch wasn't there before, right? So you did technically damage the wheel, and they're entitled to repairing that however they see fit. Now, granted, that is very repairable. However, they may want a new wheel, okay? No, here's the problem. The AI scanners have been wrong. They've just been flat out wrong. In fact, one customer even discovered that a minor scratch on the wheel was actually there in the scans beforehand. It even sends the before and after scans, and the before scan had the scratch in there, the after scan had the scratch in there, and then they sent them the bill for the scratch. So that's been part of the issue here, is that in a perfect world, maybe this system could work. Maybe. But clearly, it is either not being implemented correctly, or it is not working correctly, or maybe a combination of both. Or maybe there's some nefarious practices behind it because these scanners are expensive and they cost money. Do they cost as much as someone's salary to go in and check the cars? Maybe, maybe not. Maybe they're saving money on the human resources portion of it in the long term, but they got the upfront cost of these machines. And undoubtedly, somebody in a boardroom in a meeting was saying that, well, we can keep our revenues up by making sure we're charging for every little piece of damage because we're entitled to. Well, yes, you are entitled. If someone like completely curbs a wheel, yeah, they need to fix that. I'm not saying that you should drive a rental car, damage it, and then not have to fix it. The problem is they're also nickeling and diming people on regular wear and tear. Random wear and tear items has been part of the problem here. Not only that, I really truly question how accurate is the scanner at determining when a scratch is dirt and a scratch isn't dirt. You ever get a very fine layer of dust on your car? And your car, you washed, say you washed it recently, then you get a fine layer of dust on it. Still looks pretty shiny, but you can kind of bump the car and it'll look like that dust will form and actually look quite a lot like a scratch. You know what I'm talking about. If you've hand washed any of your own cars, you know what I'm talking about. That dust can look like a scratch even. You go, oh my gosh, there's a scratch here. How did I get that? Spray it off, wipe it off. Oh, no, it was just dirt. How does it know the difference there? How does it actually know the difference in cases like that? And I would argue it doesn't. And I don't trust these. Now, I'll have to look at who my rental car reservation is, though I did make sure that it wasn't Hertz. I believe it's Enterprise for my trip here later this week. And I'm going into the Reagan Airport, which, by the way, is one of the airports that has some of these scanners. Many of these rental car companies are rolling these scanners into various locations and not necessarily even telling people that they're doing it. So what can you do about it is the question, right? And you can do something that we all should have been doing anyway, and I personally do whenever I rent a car, okay? What I do, it's very simple. You take this smartphone device that presumably you do have in your pocket. Most of us have these things now. You take it, you go to the camera app on it, and then you take pictures around each corner of the car. Every corner, side, front, back. Get up top. Take a picture of it there as I punch the microphone. Go underneath it real quick. Get as best of a picture as you can there. Take deliberate pictures of each of the wheels. And I know this sounds like a lot of work. You just rented a car. You want to get going. You need to get to a business meeting, whatever. Take 5 minutes and do this. And by the way, the reason I'm saying take pictures instead of a video, you might just say, oh, I'll walk around and do a video. There's a very good reason not to do that. And that is that with the pictures, for one, they're going to be higher resolution than the video will be. And they're still. So you can zoom in on really tight details much more easily in a picture than you could in a video. And do that. Have those pictures the second you pick up the car, and then do it again when you drop the car off. This is the cover yourself, and it will pay off tremendously if you do that. So, hey, we're out of time. We're going to continue the discussion on a bonus edition of the Automotive ADHD show. You can catch that on the podcast right after this, or catch this show every week right here on the radio. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next week.